It's a good time to be a professional golfer. It is money falling from the sky. There is a money tree in the game of golf right now, and there actually has several branches on it. It's not just the PGA Tour. It was the European Tour. Big changes. The European Tour is no longer the European Tour. We're going to tell you all about it. Some new hires over on the LIV Golf Investments Tour, whatever it's going to be called, the one that Greg Norman is the CEO of. I'm excited about breaking even today. Guy Adami is going to join us from Risk Reversal. Titleist, which is Acushnet, stock ticker Golf, and Callaway, stock ticker ELY, just reported earnings. We're going to unpack everything that you need to know about the earnings between those two companies and why Acushnet, well, they've been on a good tear, and Callaway's just kind of tepid. And really excited, Bill Cowher, legendary Hall of Fame coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is going to join us. But as we do at the beginning of every show here on Breaking Even, we're bringing in my guy at Simplifying Golf, Barney Allery. Barney, I would ask you how you're doing, but I know how you're doing. You've had a car stolen this week.
Oh, Ned, I'm a grown man. I've never had a car stolen in my life until now. There's two types of people in the world, Ned. People that have had a car stolen, people that might get a car stolen, and now I'm part of the fraternity of people that have had a car stolen.
Well, for the next 10 minutes or so, let's take your mind off of it. Let's talk golf. We will get into Victor Hovland's back-to-back wins down at Mayakoba. Impressive win. He had a new driver by accident. But, Barney, I have to start with what's going on in the world of golf because it is absolutely intriguing, and there is so much money coming out of the Middle East. Originally, the Saudi Arabian tour, at least the money was coming out of Saudi Arabia. It was a world global tour, something that Greg Norman, by the way, thought of decades ago. It's now the LIV Golf Investments is the company, the overarching umbrella company. Greg Norman is the CEO of that company. They've made some strategic hires this week. But before we get into that, Barney, the European Tour has completely rebranded itself. And as of, well, the first event of next season, it's going to be called the DP World Tour. They're going to have twice the prize money, over $200 million, 47 events, 27 countries, minimum purse of $2 million. There is so much money in the world of golf right now. It is insane. And Barney, if you're a conspiracy theorist, it all started with the rumblings of this Saudi Arabian World Tour. And now everyone's postured. The PGA Tour has aligned itself with the European Tour, with European Tour Productions. They are absolutely circling the wagons around the world of golf, trying to keep everybody else out. What do you make of this DP World Tour?
No, so sure enough, Ned, I think you're exactly right that Scott Pelley with the European Tour, I would be extraordinarily curious to know if this happens at all with the investment of the DP World Tour. That's now the European Tour is now going to be referred to as the DP World Tour, and their massive financial investment into the European Tour, if that was to not happen, because they feel that the Super Golf League, again, with the CEO of Greg Norman and the money that the Saudi Arabians are about to throw into golf, again, I think that the European Tour, they could feel this thing coming, and they do not want to be left in the dust. They do not want to be steamrolled. And so they decided to beef up and flex up and maintain their position in global golf.
Well, when I was playing on the European Tour, it was a global tour. They had a stretch in the Middle East to start the year. And then, of course, they got over to Asia. They would get down into South America, South Africa. I mean, they were a global tour. In a way, it kind of spread them too thin. But when COVID came, it really did expose some financial concerns that they had. So, for example, the PGA Tour came in and bought a part of the European Tour Productions. And that's the company that does all the television broadcasts that you're watching on Golf Channel. They're produced by European Tour Productions on site. So there's a strategic alliance, as Jay Monahan said, who's, by the way, on the board of the, well, it was the European Tour, now the DP World Tour. There's a strategic alliance, and he's excited about the growth and the ability for these two entities, the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, to grow together. Barn, I think it's going to be called the European Tour. By the way, it remains the European Tour as a business entity, but its name, DP World Tour, I think I'm just going to continue for now to call it the European Tour. I have a lot of concerns, but my first concern is this. As far as I can tell, it's only for 1 year. It's only for 2022. I haven't read anywhere that it says it's a X number of years deal.
No, I evidently that might have slipped under my radar as well. But no. I'm well under the impression that this is a multi-year commitment on the part of DP World. There's no way that they rebrand it just for a 12-month stretch. No way.
I wouldn't think so.
No way.
The race to Dubai, by the way, they have bolstered that purse to $10 million. Do you remember when it started? It was supposed to be $10 million. And then the financial crisis happened, and Tiger was building courses in Dubai, and then he stopped. It was supposed to always be $10 million.
Right.
So now the more things change, the more they stay the same. On the other side of this, the LIV Golf Investments, the Greg Norman is CEO of, they've made some really interesting hires, Barney. I think none more so than Slugger White, the 40-year plus PGA Tour rules veteran who just recently retired from the PGA Tour.
Yes.
They have hired him now to be basically their head of rules and competitions. And what they're doing, they've also hired Ron Cross,
yes,
who is going to be their chief events officer. He was with the PGA Tour, was with the President's Cup. They've made a couple of other interesting hires, but they're basically trying to stack the deck, right? They're trying to get very well-respected folks to sit in executive-level positions so that at least they have the credibility moving forward. They've got 10 events on the Asian Tour that they're going to fund with prize money. Hopefully it starts to trickle down into Australia and some of the other kind of regional tours. But to me right now, while that entity might have the most money, it has the weakest footing in the world of golf.
Yes, and again, what they are banking on is they need a few top players to defect off the PGA Tour to go play on their tour. That may or may not happen in the near future. But in the meantime, I've got a sneaking suspicion that it has never been better in the world of men's professional golf. If you are, let's say, ranked anywhere from 200th in the world to 1,000th, that now all of a sudden these financial opportunities are going to be available to you in a way that they never have before.
I mean, it is absolutely incredible how much money is out there right now. To your point, if you're 1,000th in the world, you should be figuring out a way to get paid. And if not, you should fire an agent, hire your mom, and she will figure out a way to get you paid. Go play on any of these tours. The prize money is absolutely absurdly wonderful. There's so much money. Go get it. Okay, we do have to at least tip our cap to Victor Hovland, who goes back-to-back in Mayakoba with a new driver. His was broken by Danny Lee in the practice rounds. James Hahn had an extra shaft on hand. Of course, the equipment trucks aren't there. So he throws it in there. It's like a half-inch shorter. He ends up driving the ball beautifully and winning this tournament. What'd you make of Victor Hovland?
Very impressive. Again, if that young man gets to play from the fairway, he's real good. And you want to know how real good is? Well, try making 28 birdies or better real good. And I was told there'd be no math in today's podcast. However, Ned, that's greater than 1 out of every 3 holes making a birdie or better. And you know what? When you do that kind of stuff, that's how and why you're ranked 10th in the world. And that's a young man who's also getting paid himself.
He deserves to get paid. I love that guy. He's the Norwegian Knight, as we dubbed him, the U.S. Amateur at Pebble Beach that he won. Many more tournaments for him, I think. He's learning just now how to win his short game. His work with Jeff Smith has really paid dividends. So I would expect big things. Now he's back into the top 10, as you mentioned. Barn, what else do you have?
So, Ned, just for a minute, I'm going to get to my shut your mouth. But before I do, congratulations to Steve Alker, because Cinderella still is. He turns 50 in July. He goes to a Monday qualifier. He makes it into the Boeing Classic, but then he finishes in the top 10. And then from there, that gets him to next week's event. And then from there, well, he gets another top 10 and another top 10. When it's all said and done, he winds up getting 5 consecutive top 10s. He gets 8 out of 9 top 10s in the 9 events that he's played. And now he turns around and he wins last week. He's fully exempt for next year. Congratulations to him. But in seeing his performance, it also shined a light on my shut your mouth that involves Phil Mickelson. And Ned, here it goes. Did you know that Phil Mickelson, who's won 3 events this year, would you believe me if I told you, despite his 3 wins, he is not in the top 25 in the race, the Charles Schwab Cup. And tell me how that makes sense. And tell me if that doesn't make you want to say, shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth when you talk to me like that, Barney Allery.
He's 29th.
He's won 3 of the 4 events that he's played, right? You said. By the way, did you see that he and Charles Barkley are going to be doing the coverage from the Brooks Koepka-Bryson DeChambeau match?
Right.
Out in Vegas after Thanksgiving.
Right.
That's going to be entertainment. That's going to be must-watch golf television. I'll tell you that right now.
I think that's going to do it.
That's it, Barn. Hope you find your car. Really. If not, just go make some money because they're giving it away, apparently, in professional golf right now.
Okay, Ned.
Breaking Even is brought to you by Risk Reversal Media. You can find us at riskreversal.com and check out our podcast, On the Tape. Each week, Guy Adami, Danny Moses, and me, Dan Nathan, discuss the biggest market-moving headlines and chat with some of the most influential people on Wall Street, all in an effort to help our listeners make smarter investment decisions. So follow us On the Tape in your preferred podcast store.
Always honored on Breaking Even to have my man Guy Adami with us. Guy, how are we today, pal?
You got me is right. And, you know, the unfortunate part about podcasts, Ned Michaels, is that the fans, your audience, doesn't get a chance to see how truly handsome you are. You are a good-looking man. Better now clean-shaven, by the way, I might add.
Well, not nearly as tight-looking as you are with your tie, and Guy's got his official earpiece in and everything.
I got a high and tight cut this weekend. I'm trying to recapture some of my youth. But please, Ned, let's go down the journey of golf and your podcast.
Yes. So a couple of things that we're going to get into here. We are going to compare, because earnings just came out for Acushnet, which is Titleist. Ticker is Golf. Callaway is ELY. We're going to compare those earnings and kind of look forward and just hypothesize a little bit on what we see in the future for each of these companies. I also am going to have Bill Cowher on this week, Breaking Even. So I want you
whoa.
to
You have
offer some
you have
thoughts.
The coach,
Yeah.
Bill Cowher, on. That is we call that in the business a great get.
He is such an inspiring guy. I've had an opportunity to be around him a few times, and now I know why he's a Super Bowl champion, because he makes you want to run through a wall for him. Just a fantastic guy. So I'm going to just ask you later, if we have time, if he had been the coach of the Giants, where might the Giants be today?
If he's willing to answer that question, which my sense is he might sort of fence that one, but that's a great question, because as a New York Giant football fan, I was so hoping he would come to coach a team. And I think there was a window of opportunity for that to happen. But listen, family first, CBS job is great. I think he made the right choice, Ned.
100%. 100%. All right, so before we get started in this Callaway v. Titleist, I wanted to just tell you a quick story. At one point in my career, when I was playing on the European Tour and the Asian Tour, I was actually sponsored by both of these companies, which doesn't mean that you've made it. Let the record show. So I was sponsored by Callaway. I'd signed an exclusive deal with them for 14 clubs in the ball. I think it was a 3-year deal or something. Maybe it was a 2-year deal, but 3-year deal, I think. And I got hurt, blew out my shoulder, and I was out for the entire season. So when I say I love both of these companies, I honestly mean it, because during the time that I was out, Guy, Callaway didn't have to. It actually said in my contract, if I didn't play X number of events, they did not have to pay me. I didn't play in a single event, and they paid me in full the entire year.
And that speaks volumes as the type of company they are. I think that's an amazing story, and I think you got to give them a lot of credit. And by the way, you know, to me, that goes a long way. When you start to try to understand companies and what they're all about, there's some of the intangibles that we don't talk about enough really factor and come into play. And that's one of those, the fact that they were willing to stand by you when legally they didn't have to do it. Because I'm here to tell you, and you know this as well, the majority of the companies out there would have dropped you like a bad habit, Ned.
Should have. Well, I don't know about should have. Actually played well when I came back. But when I came back, they weren't paying me to play the ball. And Titleist at the time would pay you per week. And the new Callaway ball, after a year being out, the new Callaway ball, I was not able to manufacture the shots around the greens that I wanted to. So I ended up going with the Titleist ball. So at the time, I was kind of getting paid by both of them. And there's some funny pictures of Callaway logo on my chest wearing a Titleist hat.
That's fantastic.
Which means anybody who will give me money, I am open for business.
Listen, I know this is the part of the podcast where you question me, but I'd like to ask you a quick question, if I may. For most hacks like myself, you put a golf ball or a rock on a tee, I probably wouldn't know the difference. But as a professional golfer like yourself, Are you able to tell the difference between golf balls when you hit one?
100%. You can put blindfolds on. I mean, Tiger Woods, and I think any professional golfer could tell you, in order to put the grips on, most guys use double-sided tape. And if you put an extra wrap on Tiger's clubs or anybody's clubs, they're going to freak out because you can absolutely feel the difference. It'd be like a surgeon operating with a scalpel that was all of a sudden bigger. So the ball in the Ryder Cup, for example, when they do the alternate shot, this is always a discussion and topic of conversation of whose ball are we going to play? A huge difference. The ball might be I think the ball probably is the most difficult to interchange. You change out shafts and heads, but the ball is incredibly difficult to change.
That is fascinating. I mean, I think hacks like myself, I understand that there are different levels of golf ball for sure. I mean, you walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods and you can just see it in terms of price, but I didn't understand how much of an impact it made.
And really, frankly, at any level it does. If you ever get on a TrackMan or any of the launch monitors, you can see the difference. Get what you pay for. So that's what Titleist is all about, right? They're kind of the traditionalist golf company in a lot of ways, whereas Callaway is always pushing forward, pushing that edge of technology. So they're the same, but they're extremely different in how they approach it. Let's start, though, with Acushnet, Titleist, ticker golf. David Mayer, he's the CEO. All right, so they end up beating their earnings estimates per share. They come in at 52 cents a share. They were estimated at 15. Their sales are at 521, estimated at 414. There are a couple of things that I wanted to point out and ask you about. Adjusted EBITDA, 29% down year over year. Explain to me what that is and why that's important.
It's margins. It's, if you think about what's been going on in the world, that's really what it comes down to. Their costs went up and they were not able to pass that on to their consumer effectively is what it's saying. I haven't gone through the numbers as well as you have, but if you're asking me off the top of my head, what does it mean? It means the costs went up and they can't pass them on. Now, with that said, if you look at this company, symbol Golf, by the way, GOLF, you talk about a chart that goes from the lower left to the upper right. As we sit here right now, this is a company that's been a whisper of its all-time high. And oh, by the way, it's been on this sort of trajectory like it may be a Tiger Woods 9-iron. See what I did there? Because the 9-iron is the one that goes straight up, not a 1-iron, which I could hit. There's a great story about a 1-iron, which I won't share now, but we'll do it another time. At any rate, that chart looks fantastic. The problem I have with golf is the same problem I had years ago with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. It seems like golf is very one-dimensional, and it seems like Callaway, which we're going to talk about in a second, has gotten themselves into a number of different revenue streams, which is why at this point, if you're asking me to play the great would you rather game, which we're probably about to do, I don't want to give it away, but I will. I would rather ELY that comes out Callaway as opposed to Acushnet, which comes out golf.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because we talked about some of these supply chain issues a couple of weeks ago on Breaking Even. And David Mayer, the CEO of Acushnet, referenced it several times, the expected supply chain issues into the fourth quarter and into 22. He talked about raw materials being a problem, freight shortages being a problem. Their tax rate actually up 2% because of how they established taxes in the past. Ball prices for retailers, as we mentioned, the new ball is potentially going to be almost $60 a dozen. On the bright side, the global increase of golf is up 8 to 15% in terms of number of players. Titleist is 7 times, that's a lot, Guy, 7 times more on the men's, or actually it's just global professional tours than any other competitors. And they're still the best premium brand in golf. If I'm going to buy you a gift and it's going to be golf balls, because I like you, because I know that you have a tie on, you're looking for Titleist and you want Pro Vs. So all those things going for them. But when I look at Callaway, ELY, and Chip Brewer, now they didn't exceed their expectations in their earnings. They were estimated at 9 cents a share. They got 14. Sales were 845. They came in at 856. But again, ELY, like Acushnet, up almost 8% since they released their earnings. But the big difference for me in ELY is their ownership or partial ownership of Topgolf. And Guy, they did in quarter 3, revenue-wise, as much as they did at Topgolf in 2019. all together.
It's a staggering number, $334 million. And it's basically people walking in and better traffic at their events and stuff. And good for them. Again, that's why I mentioned it a few minutes ago, the fact that they have this diversified revenue stream. And it's really interesting. By the way, as you said, same venue sales rose to about 100% of 2019 levels. And then you got golf equipment revenues up 8.4%. And ELY is a stock that made an all-time high, then sold off in a pretty precipitous fashion and is now on the rise again. Listen, valuations are similar, although I think if you look at the EPS growth of Acushnet, you don't have nearly the EPS growth that I think you're going to see with Callaway. I mean, at a certain point, this is a guessing game. So listen, great quarters out of both, I would submit. Great stories out of both. I just happen to think that the story of Callaway, again, symbol ELY, is just a little bit better, Ned.
This is what I'm thinking as well. I said 10 minutes. We're going to go a few extra minutes because I got a couple extra padded minutes in the show. One of the things, though, that concerns me, Guy, about Callaway is their investment in this 5-iron golf, which is it's urban area, inside simulator and entertainment business. Extremely popular. There's probably 2 of them within 20 minutes of you. Not necessarily 5-iron golf, but something similar. I know where I'm in Nashville, there are 4 of them being built right now. So the issue I have, though, is it's a very saturated, competitive market. And so I'm not sure what they benefit by being in this 5-iron golf. Listen, they got Topgolf right, but I just don't know if it's worth the investment. I think this is a very competitive space that the margins, I can't imagine, are going to be all that big.
See, this, and I know you know this, I'm not breaking any news here, but, there's things called a loss leader, and I think potentially this is one of them. Maybe in their mind, they're saying, we're going to make this investment, understanding we're probably not going to reap the returns, but maybe, just maybe, we're going to create a whole new generation of golfers who are going to find us maybe not a year from now, but maybe 5 or 10 years from now. So to me, this is an investment in their future. And if they're right, I think it's a home run. And if they're wrong, it's not a disaster. So if you're asking me to sort of gauge it and sort of map it out in terms of what they're thinking, that's my thought. And listen, you got to give them credit. I mean, a lot of people only think 5 minutes ahead. In terms of this investment, I think they're thinking 5 to 10 years ahead, Ned.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was trying to think of, okay, if Acushnet and Titleist are the premium brand, what is Callaway? And you could almost make a case that they're the Tesla of golf equipment companies because they're really not even an equipment company. You can make the case that they're a technology company when you look at Topgolf, and they're an entertainment company when it comes to Topgolf and now this 5-iron golf investment. So despite the fact that they didn't give any guidance, which, by the way, does that worry you that there's no guidance given by Callaway?
That's a great question. I mean, 5-10 years ago, when companies didn't give guidance, that was obviously problematic. It typically meant the stock was going to sell off, or the fact that they didn't have clarity. In today's world, quite frankly, given everything that's transpired over the last 18 months, and prior to that, with a lot of companies getting away from the guidance business, it's not nearly as worrisome. And quite frankly, I think they're being honest. I don't think there's any way they can give guidance on something like that, or in the business in general, because there's a lot of murkiness out there for sure. So to answer your question, a few years ago, that's concerning. In November of 2021, not nearly as much.
I did find it interesting. Again, Chip Brewer, the CEO of Callaway, noted that there'll be no distribution issues he didn't anticipate in 2022. Whereas you look over at David Mayer from Titleist, he cited several times that he thought there was going to certainly be Q4 and into 2022, this supply chain issue. So very polarizing, different viewpoints on how they're going to be able to get their products out to their retail clients.
Sounds materials from. That's my sense from those comments. And again, it's very hard to speak with any certainty at all, but the fact that they're not concerned with 2022 and the fact that they're going out on a limb and saying that, to me, is somewhat encouraging. I'm not trying to contradict myself before, but, in a company that's not going to potentially give guidance and then have some degree of certainty that 2022 is not going to be nearly the issue that other companies are facing, I take some comfort in that.
I want to just throw one macro thought in there. Earlier in the show, Barney Allery and I were talking about these huge numbers that DP, they've renamed the European Tour, the DP World Tour, minimum event, $2 million. They're doubling the overall prize money. Same thing over on the PGA Tour, with the race to the FedEx Cup, money is increasing. You've got the Greg Norman-led Saudi money coming in. The macro view, a ton of money is coming into the game of golf at a professional level. And I have to think that is going to have not a trickle down, but a waterfall down. So if you're looking between these two companies, I'm saying the tide is rising in general. But for me, the Top Golf right now is the differentiator between Acushnet and Callaway. So if you had to throw a dart and pick one, I think I would be going with Callaway.
You're playing Would You Rather as well. I love Ned Michaels doing a little fast money here on his podcast, Breaking Even. That is tremendous stuff. Ned, I'm so proud of you. I love the podcast. And you mentioned you got the coach coming on. I say the coach because, quite frankly, Bill Cowher is, in my opinion, the coach. He's not a coach now, but man, oh man, I wish he was that Giant head coach for a long time.
That's Guy Adami. He is my cash caddy.
Thanks, Ned. That was great.
You looking for a vacation? Maybe somewhere you haven't been before, somewhere off the beaten path? Consider Mississippi. You can jump on their website, visitmississippi.org. They had the state fair going on just a couple of weeks ago. They had the PGA Tour in Jackson, Mississippi, the Sanderson Farms Championship. Cruising the Coast, the best automobile show in the country. Deion Sanders, Jackson State. They had 52,000 fans turn up last week at the Jackson State football game. There's so much to do in Mississippi. You can hit the coast. You can gamble a little bit, bet on the sports book, play golf. If you love music, the Grammy Museum, just check it out. Visit Mississippi.org. Well, you better buckle those chin straps a little bit tighter because a man who led the black and gold of the Steelers to 8 division titles, 2 AFC championships, and a win in Super Bowl 40 is set to join Breaking Even. Of course, I'm talking about Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher, Hall of Famer. You've been asked every question under the book, I imagine, so I was trying to think of what hasn't Coach Cowher been asked? And I want to know how you take such good care of your mustache.
Ah, yeah, right. How about that one? So I've had a mustache, to be honest with you, Ned, my entire life, probably from college on. I would shave it periodically during the season. I'd go down to our beach house in North Carolina. And so I would shave it and just sometimes it'd be kind of like incognito because no one would recognize me. So it was kind of cool. Then I had a little bit of a goatee for a while, but the mustache it's just a must. I mean, it's kind of like, that's just who I am.
How come you're not in the Hall of Fame of the Mustache Association of America?
I think I don't know if there is an actual Hall of Fame.
There is.
There is. And yes. I'm not in it?
No, I mean, you should be.
I mean, why am I not in it?
Right. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, I promise.
This clearly an oversight.
Right. That's right.
I mean, it's clearly. Maybe it was the goatee for years. Did they not recognize
it? Was discounted.
Yes. So I got banned because of the goatee.
That's right.
Man, that's a tough club to be in. Boy, I'll tell you. What is the standard to get into the Mustache Hall of Fame?
If you can never have had a goatee, at least 40 years. Like, speaking of facial hair and bust, were you happy with how your bust of the Hall of Fame came out?
It looks a lot better than I really look in person.
I thought the same thing, actually.
Yeah, I didn't have that. You have to agree with me. That was an unnecessary comment.
You walked right into it.
I did. I really kind of did. But, it's so funny because I gave him a picture. Everyone said, you want the scowl? You want this? I go, no, I don't want that to live forever. Because they only caught me when I was mad. Right. I was pretty happy most of the time.
Right.
A lot of times it wasn't even me being mad. It's just being kind of passionate about something.
Well, because Peyton Manning's, he might ask for a redo.
Right.
Smart guy, cerebral, but we didn't need to give him a 4-foot-tall kind of forehead. But
I know.
Anyway.
I know. Yeah, but Troy Polamalu, he had wavy hair, so his was
cool.
Well.
That must have been special to go in with Troy. And you mentioned in your speech, you talked about your mentors. And one of the things I was curious about, and I'm going to flip the script on you a little bit, and who would you say would refer to you in the same light that you refer to in your mentors?
Wow, that's a good question. I know when Ken Wisenhunt, all the years that he was a head coach, used to always look back and look up to me. And, there's a lot of people I'm talking to right now that I talk to a lot of times in the offseason, guys like Josh McDaniel and other coaches, even right now that are in the league. I don't want to name too many names, but I talk to probably 3 or 4 guys that run a pretty regular basis during the season. they come to me and just says, what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you see? What do you think? I mean, when you look at us, what's your first thoughts? I'm thinking, well, okay, my first thoughts is,
sure you want
that? These are the issues that you want. So it's right. You ask a tough question, get ready for the real answer.
That's right.
So, but that'd be hard to say because you know what? So many times I believe, Ned, that the people that you influence or maybe mentor, you don't even know you're doing it. You don't ever have a chance to meet them, right? Because, I was only with Marty for so many years, and we had so many coaches with us down through the years, and Dom Capers, Chan Gailey, Ken Wisnott, Mike Malarkey, all these guys that went on to become head coaches. And yet they still, as you go on and become a head coach, they did it their way as well. So I'm sure there was some influence that I may have had with them that they would tell you about. But that's a hard question for me to answer because I think you'd have to go to them and see if maybe I was a part of one of the people that they looked upon as being their mentor.
When they call you and say, what do you see? Are you guys talking X's and O's, or are you talking more kind of macro view?
It's both. I don't know a lot of times. I can look at a game and I know schematically what they're trying to do and what they want to do. I don't know what the communication was. I'm not sure if it was the quarterback's fault. Was that the receiver's fault?
Does it matter?
Oh, it does. Well, ask Odell Beckham.
Because you always see the quarterback take the blame, or at least most of the time. If they're doing it right. But if the receiver runs the wrong path, it doesn't matter to find out whose fault it is. I mean, kind of like in golf. If you hook one in the woods, does it really matter? Well, it kind of does, because you got to figure out so you don't do it again.
Right, exactly. And so those are the things at times. I mean, the quarterback's going to look like it was his fault. And sometimes the receiver can make a quarterback look really good because it's a bad throw. He makes a great adjustment to the ball. But there's also, on the other side of it, sometimes a guy doesn't run the right route at the right depth. And all of a sudden you're throwing the thing thinking he's coming out of there at a certain depth. He doesn't. And the defender gets there before he does. So is that on the quarterback? Because you have to throw with anticipation in the National Football League. So there's so many little things that take place. But and it's also about what scenarios, relationships. How do you handle this? I think I'm playing this guy too much. We need to kind of back him off, And like I said, I was saying the other day, I said someone like Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a great quarterback with the Buffalo Bills. But you watch Josh Allen this past week when they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars 9-6, I wouldn't say anything. I mean, I don't talk to Sean McDermott. I don't at all. But at the same time, what I said as a coach, what I would do right now is reel him back in a little bit. You don't want to let him – don't play the way you've been playing. Just don't give him as many options. I mean, right now I look at what he's doing, whether he's changing a play, whether it's a read option, he wants to keep it or hand it off. There's just too many things right now where I think he's trying to put the whole team on his back, and that's not sustainable. So I think the biggest thing I would do is you still be you, because I know you're going to run around. I mean, that's part of it. But let's pull back some of the options we give him so that he can now just play the game and not feel like all the onus is on his shoulders. And so, just little things like that, because you go through the season. And it's so funny. I was telling someone today, I said the season to me always segmented it into three parts. The first 6 games or 4 or 5 games, you try to find out who you are as a football team, your identity, because identity is something that you do on a regular basis. If you're slicing the ball, so you're
Coach, you're a slicer.
Yeah.
We know your identity. We don't need 5 holes to know that.
Right. So right. Sometimes it's 1 or 2, right? So, but then you take the next 5 games. You navigate some of the murky waters, as I used to call them. And that's been, as you start to tweak some things. Again, I go back to the middle. It's 17-game season, 18 holes on a golf course. That middle part of it, you're trying to just find that groove, right? What that may be. And you like to think by those last 4 or 5 games, I know who I am. I know my strengths, but more importantly, I also know my weaknesses. And so I got to be able to mask my weaknesses, accentuate my strengths, as we get ready to go into the playoffs. And so, just right now, we're in murky waters with a lot of teams because it's just not sustainable to be playing at the highest of levels right now because you just can't sustain that week in and week out.
Which is more difficult, you said, accentuating your strengths or identifying your weaknesses?
Well, I think you can identify your weaknesses. I think the biggest part of that is trying to mask them. Yeah, I mean, you really do. You just don't expose the weaknesses that you have and try to minimize how much you expose them. And you don't want to get away from your strengths, but at the same time, if you become too one-dimensional, somebody can always take away your strength. So you better have something else to fall back on. So I've always said, like, for football, it's the ultimate chess match. It's me trying to outthink you, stay one step ahead of you. But in the course of doing so, don't lose sight of who you are and what your strengths are. It's okay if they know what you're doing, you know what you're doing, and you guys all know it's the same thing, but you do it better. I said, we got the ball when I was coaching. When we got the ball in the fourth quarter and we had over a 2-score lead, I'm running the football because I'm going to use the clock. The clock is my ally now. I put myself in a situation. They knew that we were running the ball. But you know what? We still ran the ball effectively. So it's kind of like putting a dagger in someone's heart, right?
Well, you always
know we're going to run it. You can't
stop it. That's right. You always talked about. I can just tell how much you love that. I mean, I can see the satisfaction right now and hear it in your voice of just running it right down their faces and nothing that you can do about it. We're going to impose our will on you.
It kind of that. Don't flaunt it. Just get up and go back in the huddle. And just with a smile on your face, you can wink to them a little bit. Yeah, guess what? We're coming back again, too.
Were there any teams that you really enjoyed beating? Or like, who was your favorite team, regardless of who was coaching it? Or you love to beat them?
Well, the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, that was
good tussles.
It was a rivalry. I mean, Ray Lewis be over there doing his dance, and Ed Reed be ready to knock out Hines Ward. Hines Ward wants to knock him out. And Ben would step up in there, and it was just Shannon Sharp was always talking crap. So we were two identical teams. We were two teams that loved to run the football and play good defense. So it just got to the point of, like you said, I'm going to knock you down, and you're going to knock me down. When it's all said and done, who's going to impose themselves on the other person where all of a sudden you just don't get back up? And I said, so, I love those games. Listen, we used to be so sore after those games. I mean, I think we were like 500 the week after because I think we're like, oh, man, I'm still sore on Friday.
And I would be willing to bet that most of those guys that you see nowadays from those old Ravens teams and your players the same, you probably are friends now because of that bonding.
And I coached, Ned, I coached 4 Pro Bowls. Back in the day, the losing team of the AFC Championship game coached a Pro Bowl. It was a consolation prize. Well, I lost a bunch of AFC Championship games. My kids loved it. I think we got the AFC Championship game. My kids rather us lose and go to Hawaii than win and go to the Super Bowl. So I'm like, okay, if we win, I'm happy. The kids are unhappy. If I lose, kids are happy, but I'm unhappy. So anyway, we go out there, and you always go out there. You had Ray Lewis. You had Shannon Sharp. And all the guys that just played. Peyton. How about this one year I was out there in 2004. My 3 quarterbacks, okay? Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees. Those are the 3 guys. I said, man, even I can't screw this one up.
I'm taking the day off. You guys got this.
Yeah, you got it. So it was pretty awesome. I mean, it really was. And so all the guys you compete against, you get with those guys over at the Pro Bowl. And, it wasn't even about, talking to them anymore. It just was very relaxed. So much respect that happens. Because you never get a chance to really see these guys. You sit around the pool, you're having a drink, talking about the game you may have played against them this past year and the run you were on. And so it was always a special trip over there.
It would strike me as, even as the coach, you're saying, I'm coaching Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Peyton Manning. And on the flip side of that, they're saying, this is great. I'm getting to spend time with Bill Cowher. I'm getting to learn from Coach Cowher. But you're such a humble guy. Do you ever think like that? Does it still surprise you to this day when people are like, I find you an inspiring character. I love hearing your stories and how you treat people and just the discipline you have in your life. But you're such a humble guy. Do you ever let yourself think that way?
I sit back and just I don't think about me. I'm just sitting back watching these guys, and it's just like, man, I played. I went right from playing to coaching, Ned, 28 years old, and coaching guys I played with. And I just have so much respect for the National Football League. And then to see the greatness that's out there and what these guys have done, and, to spend a week with these guys, and, it was just a really cool time. I remember just stretching and working out. They're like, hey, I think we're good, Coach. We can probably cut this period short. I'm going, sure. They go, do you ever do that in the course of the season? I go, nope. I said, if I cut it short, it wasn't because we were doing good things. It's because I kicked you right off the field. Because you guys are out of here. Usually when I would do that, and truth be told, there were times I knew we're playing a team, inferior team, probably lost 5 straight games. We're clearly a better football team at this point in the season than they are. And I was mad at them the entire week. I would kick them off sometimes on Friday. Just get off the field. Because you're going to show up like that on Sunday, you're going to be embarrassed. Embarrassed by a team that you have no business losing to, but you know what? You just thought you were too good. And all you had to do was show up. Get out of here. So by the time they came by Sunday, they're like, "Oh, I'll show you. Yeah, you think we took them for serious?" I go, "Well, I will see."
The chess match began not on Sunday, but earlier in the week.
Right, and that's what it is. It's managing your team, and I think that's the thing to me for coaching is to, I said before, it's almost the season's like a roller coaster. You're going to you go up, down, peaks, valleys, and when it's all said and done, you get done, you go, "Wow. What a year. What the emotional roller coaster that was. Let's go do it again." And what you learn throughout doing that is that you got to keep everything in its proper perspective. I used to say, I said tell the guys, you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as they say you are. It's never as good as it appears, and it's never as bad as it seems. So it's just take things week to week, put things in its proper perspective. And, that's the thing. And I try to make every game personal. So I would sit there at the end of the week on Fridays, and everybody out of there. We were done by 2:00. Everyone took off, last practice. Got my secretary, gave her an hour of signing stuff, autographs, whatever. She left. I would go in there around 4:00. I played racquetball earlier, so I got my exercise. I cleared my head. Around 4:00, I go in there. I pop myself an Iron City beer. And how can I make this game personal? Sometimes it was not that hard. It was an easy thing to do because it was personal. Sometimes I had to create a personal dislike for the team. I had to share that with our team. And sometimes I didn't let the facts stand in the way of a good motivational story.
There's nothing wrong with a little embellishment and extra mustard if it gets the troops going, right?
Whatever it is, we had to make the game personal. Because I still say, you go out there, you can't just go out there, we'll just show up. And no, it's personal. Individually, it's personal. Collectively, it's personal. In the greater scheme of things, when people are looking at us, they're going to be judgmental on you based on how you walk out there on Sunday.
It's interesting, though, because a lot of people, you hear them say, well, just stay even keel, don't take things personally. And I, like you, highly, highly competitive. I've seen you play cornhole. Epic cornhole. I know how competitive you are. How do you not make it personal?
My take on that is don't disrespect your teammates. Don't disrespect the opponent. Don't disrespect the game. And I get that, the whole taunting thing that we have going on right now. And I know it's because we're trying to set the right image for the younger kids who are playing the game. I get that part of it. But you also got to allow the fact that you have 2 guys that are out there on a Sunday afternoon whose jobs are on the line, and for 3 hours, it's a one-on-one competition between me and you. And man, when I get one up on you, I'm going to show some emotion. I mean, my gosh, okay? And you know what? And when you're one up on me, I know it's going to be back in my face, which is fine. That's a hearty banter. I call that banter because it's like back and forth. And now it's sometimes, but you don't have to be disrespectful because, I think just using common logic, where I feel like sometimes I've watched through the first course of this season, we're calling these taunting calls. Come on, man, a guy can't show some emotion after he makes a big play, particularly in the fourth quarter of a game. I mean, gosh, don't take. That's not look for things.
We can't all be Barry Sanders.
No, right? Yeah.
I wish we could, but.
No, and they say, act like you've been there before. But what if you haven't been there before?
I haven't. What do you want me to do? You always talk about, and I love how you paraphrase it, and you have to treat everybody fairly, but you're going to treat them differently because everybody's buttons are pushed differently, and a rookie versus a Ben Roethlisberger, they don't deserve, in a way, to be treated equally, right? They're going to be treated fairly, but somewhat differently. I'm curious, again, flipping the script on you, what about pushing back on the coaches or if in business setting, your bosses? What's your philosophy there? I mean, do you have to earn the right to be able to kind of push back on your coaches?
I think coaching is the same thing. I think a young coach goes into an organization. I know for me, the input that I have to earn the right for that. Mm-hmm. And as I sit there and as I start with coaches, and I see guys that come up with some ideas, and I always wanted us to be creative, be proactive. I think to think outside the box. I think that's the only way that you keep pushing the envelope forward. I didn't want to sit there and be a very standard team. But at the same time, I says, when people all of a sudden come up with some ideas and they work, you know what? Let's try it again, players included. So I don't ever want to suppress anything, but you have to also earn the right to have more input. And, it's just like, as a coach for me, I know the buck stops with me. And I said, listen, you'll ever hear me call a player out in public. I said, I'll take it. But just understand there's a trickle-down effect here, okay? So if I take it, there's a trickle-down effect. It starts to the coaches and it goes down to the players. So I'm just telling you, I'm holding some people accountable in here. I'm fine taking it. I'll take the heat, throw it on me. But you know what? There is a trickle-down effect that will take place. So
turns into Niagara Falls by the time it gets to the players.
But you know what? I always encourage the players to speak up, to talk about it. And that's the thing, too, Ned. We talk about coaching collegiately and coaching professionally.
Yes.
When you coach collegially, college coaches, whatever you say, they're going to do. They're not going to push back on anything that you're saying. You coach collegially, there's going to be a lot of pushback, and you can't take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys have all been great players at different colleges at every level. In some cases, they've been enabled along the way. So you almost have to break them down a little bit to get them to be a part of something that's a bigger picture, because they've always been the main center of the picture. But once they buy into that, also give them the leeway to make what's special about them. When Troy Polamalu wanted to do something, you do it. Chris Hope, free safety, cover him up. Now, Troy, you can't be doing too many things because, if you're wrong more than you're right, you're going to be standing next to me on the sideline. But if you're right a lot of times, you can change a game. You know what? I don't want to take those instincts away from you. So you want the players to be themselves, comfortable enough to make decisions and reactions that they feel instinctive about. But at the same time, as you sit there, like I said, I always wanted our team to go right to the walk the line. Man, I wanted you to feel like you were cocky, confident, and everything else. We walked on that field. We were the best group of 53 guys or 48 guys on that particular day. And I don't care who's playing because we're a special unit together. And if you cross the line, my job was to pull you back. When I thought you crossed the line of being disrespectful, you being selfish and taking something into your own hands and not worrying about the circumstances, a selfish penalty, I said, so I want to pull you back. So, that was my job, to pull you back. But I wanted you to walk that line as close as you could get to the line because, to me, I want to maximize what I can get out of you.
It's not all that different than the television world, is it, Coach?
No, right?
I want you to walk the line, but if you cross it, the door is over there.
Yeah. And trust me, when you cross it, you hear about it, too.
That's exactly right.
Be careful. Don't cross that line as broadcast here.
No. You cross that line, and you don't get a chance to go back in a couple of series later. Of all the players that you coach, who challenged you the most? Honestly,
a guy like Rod Woodson would come in. He'd be watching tape when I got in there. What's he like? What are you looking at? So I'd go and stand behind him. He's making notes. I said, what are you looking at? He said, his feet. I said, his feet? Yeah, his feet. And I want to see where he's lined up because I'll match it up with the route. And when I get in this formation, he goes, when I get in this formation, coach, there's only a couple routes you have to play. And I'm thinking, okay. So during the course of a game, he came walking off and it conveniently run right past me. Got a blitz more, way too much zone. So what was my reaction? Hey, Dom Capers, my defensive coordinator, we got a blitz more. We're playing way too much zone. So, I listen. And so, when guys like that talk, when Troy talks, I listen. I said, Jerome Bettis, Hines Ward, and Plesko Burris, they'd come off. They get so mad at me. Hey, man, we're open. Why are we running the ball? I go, because we got a lead, okay? We're going to win the game. We're not going to throw the ball. But, man, I could beat this guy all day long. I said, I don't care. Look at the score. This is bullshit. I'm like, man. Then they're going, Ben won't throw it to me. I go, well, then go talk to Ben. I go, I've got to watch the defense. I'm not quarterbacking. Go talk to him about it. He won't listen to me. I go, that's not my problem. That's on you. Don't come to me. You work it out. Oh, you said come to you about anything. I go, yeah, but not in the middle of a game. I'm trying to can I watch the defense, please?
So a defensive man until the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Receivers Go talk to somebody over there. And if a rookie or someone runs by and says the same thing that Woodson or Palomalu, you're not giving them the same service, right? I mean, you're grabbing their face mask.
Oh, so the great one was Willie Colon, who was our offensive lineman for us, rookie, and he played his rookie year, and we're in a game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I could just see him. He was getting in one of those shoving matches, and I could just see a couple plays in a row. So I started yelling, "Willie, Willie!" And they're all in the huddle going, "Don't look. Don't look. If you look, it's over. Don't look at me. Pretend like you can't hear him." I go, "Cologne!" And he just, "What?" I go, "Come here." So I said, "You get one penalty. That would be the most selfish act. Don't you ever do that. And I'll tell you, if you do it again, I'll pull you right out of this game. You got me?" I said, "Okay." And he goes back in the huddle. He goes, "You guys are right. I should never have looked over there."
You got to listen to the veteran players.
Yeah, I go, "We told you. You just shouldn't have just looked over." He's yelling. He'll keep yelling to the next play. You know what he was yelling about. Just keep going. By the time you get to the end of the series, he goes, he'll forget about it.
If he's not yelling at you, he doesn't love you anymore.
Yeah,
You're getting ready to be traded.
That's the truth.
One more question, then I'm going to let you slide out of here. Thanks again for your time. So generous
great,
of you.
Man.
You've been in football almost, 60 years now. I mean, it's amazing. As you said in your Hall of Fame induction speech, two families, really 15 years with the Steelers, 15 years with CBS. As we say in the golf world, kind of the back nine. What does the back nine look like here for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always said I think the key to life really is ability to transition from one phase of life to another and try to eliminate stress. And I'm so happy. I mean, I've been married now for 6 years. I've become a full-time New Yorker. I do love my platform at CBS because I love the game of football. In the offseason, I will do some periodic speaking on leadership. But I also enjoy traveling. Certainly the pandemic has been something that's hit us all and kind of put a little bit of a wrinkle on that. But, just like getting to know you, like you guys, Ned, like coming down to the golf trip that we've been on the last couple of years. I was telling my wife, I said, I've really golf has been great, but the camaraderie, what we do has been just unbelievable. I mean, the night me, you, Tiki, and Rondé were sitting up talking football till 3 o'clock in the morning till the bottle of scotch ran.
I was the fly on the wall. I was the fly. I was 4-3, and this guy's dropping here, and he's playing defensive end, but he's a linebacker. Oh, it was intriguing. It really was captivating.
And you sat there with us that entire night, and you were asking, which was kind of cool because you were asking the questions that the normal person would ask. Yeah. And we're all just, we just assume you know what we're talking about, right?
The empty can here and the salt pepper guy.
Yeah, we had the cans, we had the salt and pepper going. We had the bottle of scotch was the big, tall defensive end.
Right.
But that has been getting to know some of the guys in our profession, and that to me is the fun part of this time of life, is being able to go do these things and meet people like yourself who very interesting, and they're sports nuts, but also you're great at what you do. You're a great golfer, and you're kind of on the course and talking about golf. I love golf. I'm not a gregreat golfer, as you know and you've seen, but man, I grew up just watching it. I mean, I watched Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm almost in a little bit of okay, there's no more golf on, so I got football now. So when football's over, first thing I'm looking at the first tournament that's out in Hawaii. I'm like, okay, it's back.
That's
Here we
it.
go.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's like, it seems like it starts right after the season's over. So it's just like beautiful. So I mean, this is where I'm at, and I feel healthy. I feel young, vibrant. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I talk with a lot of people around the league. I tried to share my wisdom, right? I think a lot of times your legacy is what you're able to share with other people. That's part of what you should be able to do, is to pass things along, to help other people who are in your situation. The lessons I learned along the way, I didn't do all these things right all the time. And here's the lessons that I learned. And so, I remember sitting down when I was a coach talking to Don Shula and talking to Marty Schottenheimer, who was much older than I was. And they weren't just football lessons. These are lessons of life. A lot of lessons. You talk about a family and working with them through the dynamics of a family. I always talk about football being a football family. And Sometimes you have rocky times. Sometimes there's tough times, and people hear what they don't want to hear, but they need to hear. And I said, isn't that what a family is? We don't all have to agree and be hunky-dory all the time.
It's hard to find people like that, though, right? I mean, it really is hard to find people who are going to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not, but this is what you need to hear.
Right. And so it's a small group of people, right?
Right.
I mean, you count your true friends on one hand, and the true friends are the ones that you can have those uncomfortable conversations with that that feel comfortable.
Yes.
I used to say, get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And if you can do that as a football team, is get comfortable feeling, I'm going to make you uncomfortable at times. You're going to be uncomfortable in the fourth quarter. But if you're comfortable knowing that this is part of the process, is dealing with uncomfortable situations, and you're comfortable with that, that's where we need to be having these hard conversations about social justice, these hard conversations about diversity and inclusion. These are things that we have to get comfortable with. Are they uncomfortable conversations? Absolutely. But if you want to have growth in anything, you've got to have those conversations. And that's the thing, like you said, some people get too uncomfortable that they're not comfortable enough to talk about it. And we have to have enough people in positions of leadership that are comfortable being uncomfortable.
And I will tell you, and you know this, but I'm looking forward to continuing our dialogue with Rondé and Tiki Barber, because they're so introspective and they are willing to have those conversations, so intelligent. You're right. Those are hard conversations to have. But if everybody's working towards the same goal, it's okay to be uncomfortable in that setting.
Yes. I mean, and that's the only way you're going to gain growth. Growth to me is about doing something that's outside the norm. That's how you think outside. I mean, that's how you continue to move forward. If we all stayed the same way, then we would never grow. It's personal growth. It's society growth. I have the conversations with James Brown and Nate Burleson a lot of times on our set, and I talk to JB and I talk about this all the time. And so you get into forums where you can talk about it. You get opportunities where you can do something about it. It's never going to happen as fast as you want, but you can't let it just die. You got to stay. Someone has to keep propelling that. I mean, because it gets too comfortable when you don't have to talk about it. I just want us to constantly be a little bit uncomfortable with the fact, because we haven't done enough. And you know what? When you haven't done enough, you got to talk about that. And if it's not uncomfortable to you, then you're too complacent.
As John Lewis said, it's okay to get into a little bit of good trouble every now and again. Hey, Coach, before I let you go, when we started this show, this podcast, Breaking Even, one of my larger goals for it is to be a philanthropic vehicle to help raise money for the Tennessee Junior Golf and those who are less privileged. Here in Tennessee, it's called the Tennessee Golf Foundation. And on behalf of Breaking Even, as we're just getting started here, so hopefully this number continues to grow, we're going to make a $500 donation on your behalf to the Tennessee Golf Foundation. That's going to help some young junior out there pay their entry fees for tournaments this summer. So on our behalf here at Breaking Even, especially from me, thank you for spending time with us, but thank you for just being who you are, being the leader that you are, and allowing me to pick your brain a little bit, because like I said, I'm going to leave this conversation a little bit uncomfortable, but all the better for it.
Yeah, you know what, Ned? It's always a pleasure to be with you. So $500, I'll help them. That's about what I spent on golf balls a year anyway, so it's good.
Maybe that donation will come back to you next time you're in Tennessee, down at the Honors Course.
Somehow.
Oh, it's funny. Coach, you're the best. I really thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Enjoy it, my friend. Look forward to seeing you this spring.
Yeah, definitely. Take care. Thanks for listening to Breaking Even with me, Ned Michaels. If you like what you heard, make sure you hit follow in the podcast store and leave us a review. It helps people find our show. Follow us on Twitter at Breaking Even Pod, or you can also find me at Ned Michaels. And remember, we'll be back next Thursday for more Breaking Even, which is brought to you by Visit Mississippi. Jump online, visit Mississippi.org. See everything that's going on down there.